All right, a lot to do here. Let's start with the Mets. And I've said this a couple of times, and I'll say it again. And this is a big if, but if DeGrom stays healthy, and so far so good with his two starts, Washington, and then, of course, last night when he retired, the first 17 guys, if he stays healthy, and the Mets are going to hate me saying this, but this is how I feel, so tough, they're going to win the NL pennant. If he stays healthy and can piggyback with Scherzer, with the other pitchers they have on that road, Carrasco's got 11-12 wins. Bassett's good. Walker had a bad start the other day, but he was very good up until that point. And Diaz has been unhittable in that bullpen. If, in fact, DeGrom stays healthy, they're the best team in the National League. And that includes L.A., and I know how hot the Dodgers have been. 8 in a row. They've been on an incredible tear. They've scored a ton of runs. I get all that. I understand it. But if the Mets are healthy, they have the two best pitchers in the sport on the same team. They have a lights-out closer. And the thing I like about the Mets right now is they got a lot of grittiness to them. This is not a team that's just not doing this with pitching. They are gritty. They're a feisty team. They've dealt with the injuries all year long. Remember, Scherzer and DeGrom were both out. They've had a lot of injuries. Obviously, they've had other injuries in that rotation as well. And they have done the team is put the ball in play. They don't hit a ton of home runs, but sometimes that's a benefit. Lindor's got a ton of RBIs. Alonso's had an incredible year. McNeil's hit the ball very, very well. Marte is very resourceful. Nemo's a good player, too. They bring in Vogelbach. He's done an excellent job. That was a good trade bringing Ruff in for J.D. Davis. I know their catching isn't phenomenal, and they probably are maybe in a big series against a team that can pitch. You wonder about their offense, but you love the manager. And I wonder about their eighth inning, too. They're not, they got a couple little flaws, but I think with that starting rotation, they will be very, very difficult to beat. Plus, they will get an advantage because the second best team, or I should say the third best team in the National League is either San Diego or Atlanta. It's not Milwaukee, St. Louis, and that's who the Mets would be grouped with their bracket tier and not be with the Atlanta and San Diego. They're going to be with the Brewers or the Cardinals because that one of those teams win the division, and the Mets will be with that team, and that's an easier opponent than playing the other team that the Dodgers with the best record might have to play with, too. I just love what I see with the Mets. Again, if DeGrom stays healthy, to me, they're the best team in the National League. And I know that's saying a lot with the Dodgers, who have been, again, superb. They have killed San Diego. We'll get to the Padres momentarily. Dodgers have won 17 of 19. They swept San Diego all weekend long. Padres were non-competitive out there at Dodger Stadium. That's a very bad sign for them. We're going to get to what might ail them as we continue here with this Brushback. And the Dodgers have a great offense. They're going to score 1 million runs. But I just wonder, in a big playoff series, and this is what it's about, really both teams, Mets and Dodgers, I don't trust Gonsolin with the season on the line. I know Tyler Anderson's been great. I don't trust him either. Urias I trust. If Buehler comes back, I trust him. I trust those two, but not like I trust Scherzer and DeGrom. And I don't trust the back end of that rotation, and I don't trust the ninth inning. I know maybe in the ninth inning later on, Trinan they can have back. They'll have some advantages. Maybe they can put May in the bullpen, too. But I think the Dodgers have some issues pitching-wise that the Mets don't have. And the Mets have two pitchers that are unhittable when they're on their game. So I think the Mets are better than L.A., despite the fact that L.A. has been just unbelievably powerful and great in the last month. I mean, was it 30-5? Am I reading that wrong? I'd have to go back and take a look what their actual streak is in this last month of the season. But they just buried the Giants twice in 2 4-game series. They finished them off for the year. They obviously just beat San Diego. We just gave you the numbers against the Padres overall for the year. They've killed them in the last couple seasons. The Dodgers are very, very good, but I still think the Mets are better in a short series. As of right now, and I'm also going back to the 4-game series in L.A. earlier in the year when the Mets lost the first 2 and had to come back the next 2 days without their 2 big pitchers pitching. And the Dodgers were pitching Buehler in one of those games, and the Mets got a split. I thought that was very imperative and very significant as well. I love what I see with the Mets, and I think the Dodgers are the second best team in the NL, not the first best team. Now, listen, give them a lot of credit what they've done in their division, and they have, again, polished off the Padres. And this is something I'm going to concern myself now with San Diego. The Padres have done this a lot. Last year, they were everybody's favorite flavor of the month, and they absolutely did nothing in the last 70, 80 games. They had the bullseye on their back, and although the Padres were over 500 and 10 or 11 over for a good part of the season before their tailspin late, they were not great in the middle of the summer. And I know the Padres are poo-pooing what happened over the weekend. Manny Machado in particular. Just got to keep on playing. We'll be fine. The Padres, I mean, they have a lot of expectations on them. And yes, Tatis hasn't played yet, and eventually he will. And I know the pitching's been good. Darvish was not great. Obviously, Musgrove was not great. I wonder about the Padres in a big spot. I love the manager, but this franchise does not have a winning culture. These players sort of grouped together here out of nowhere with Drury and Machado and Soto and everything else. I wonder, Hader in the bullpen, I wonder how they are going to respond with some big-time pressure on them in a first-round playoff series, which is all going to be on the road, most likely in Atlanta. I wonder how San Diego and the Braves, a 3-game series, all at Truist Park. I don't know if the Padres are going to win that series. I don't trust the Padres. I don't trust their culture as a franchise to go out there and make a big run in the postseason, at least this year. Next 2 years down the road, and nobody's arguing that they shouldn't have made the Soto trade. That was a no-brainer. Prospects are prospects. Nobody is arguing that. But Clevenger and Darvish and Snell and Musgrove, they sound great on paper. I got to see it in the big series. I'm worried about San Diego, and that is a horrendous sign that they go to L.A. for the weekend in a big series that was much ballyhooed, and they get their doors blown off in 3 games. That is a very bad sign for San Diego. They got time to regroup. They play them 9 times in the month of September. 2 of those series are at Petco, but I'd be worried about San Diego in the big picture. That's me. I don't think they're no better than the 4th best team in the NL. The 3rd team we have to discuss for a second are the Yankees, who have now, again, you'd expected it. Eventually, they were going to come back to earth, but they've lost 5 in a row here. That was a bad series in St. Louis. Holmes has not been quite as good in the bullpen. Obviously, the game against Kansas City last Sunday afternoon, the game on Saturday where they gave up the 2-run double in the bottom of the 8th inning. The Yankee bullpen is not. They got a lot of injuries out there. Nobody in America is going to trust Chapman in a big game. I'd be a little worried about the Yankee bullpen. Montas deserves many a chance, but remember, in his postseason debut a couple years ago against the Astros, he got bombed. We shall see if he can go out there and get the job done in a big spot. And let's call it like we see it. And I know he's good in the post game, and he likes to, do it based on therapy. Cole, really? I mean, do you trust him? If you're a Yankee fan, do you trust him with your life on the line in October? Where is there evidence as that last year? I don't want to hear about injury. I'm not interested. It happens all the time with pitchers. Go out there and pitch. Last year, hamstrings or no hamstrings, he got obliterated by the Red Sox. He's had 5 starts this year. He's given up 5 or more runs. He had a very bad start Wednesday against Seattle. It's funny about Cole. Every time he goes out there, he can throw a perfect game. Every time he throws them out, it's a 2-hit shutout with 16 strikeouts waiting to happen. Every time. But overall, would you trust Verlander or would you trust Cole? Overall, which one? I'm trusting Verlander. Sorry. Not even debatable. Overall, I mean, this is a little weird, but I'll throw it out there for you anyway. Overall, would you trust Castillo or trust Cole? Season on the line. I know you probably have to take Cole, but I did see Castillo walk into Yankee Stadium twice in the last 2 weeks and shut the Yankees down. And he also pitched a great postseason game against Cincinnati 2 years ago in that short series. I'm just saying, for $324 million, if you're Cole, you got to be DeGrom in the postseason. We haven't seen it as a Yankee yet that he's on that level. Got to be fair, and it's a legitimate point, and every Yankee fan agrees. You have to be fair, but that's a very legitimate argument to be made against Cole. Worried a little bit about the Yankees. They need that home field against the Astros in that first round. They need that in the worst way. San Diego issues. Yankees a little issue here. And the Mets, forget the Braves. They're going to now settle for second place. The Mets are the best team in the National League if DeGrom can piggyback Scherzer.